So anytime you're working in developing different solutions for different countries, you really need to understand that key market and the flavor that the market needs. But now both the employees and the employers are much more worried about the welfare, the well-being of the people. Let's under-promise and over-deliver. You almost need to unlearn to learn again, right? So you need to be very curious. Platforms also come already backed up with AI. So AI is learning a lot about the employees, their needs. I think like healthy competition and healthy partnership in between the traditional brokers, the carriers, and the insurtechs are going to accelerate the growth for everybody.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Insurance Distribution Podcast. I'm here today with Ricardo de Almeida, lead of Mercer Benefits in LATAM. How are you, Ricardo? Nice to meet you.
Great, Martin, and thank you for inviting me for the podcast. Really great to be here with everyone.
Amazing. Let's start a bit about your background in how you got into the insurance sector and what's your current role within Marsh. So if you can provide some context, that would be great.
Great. Look, as I was telling you earlier, I was a tennis player growing up in Brazil. And then, unfortunately, I had actually a wrist injury when I was 17 and decided to play college tennis instead of professional. So actually, my education was my insurance, and when I finished my school, I was very interested earlier in people's welfare and risk management, as well as finance. So I did a master in international business, and I had the great opportunity to join AIG back in 1999 as a management associate running their global pension businesses. So it was a very unique and a great beginning in the insurance world for me.
That's amazing. And what about now? I mean, how you got into the current role leading the Marsh Mercer Benefits for whole LATAM?
That's great. So yeah, like with AIG, I was running global pensions in New York. Then they actually sent me to work in Slovakia to build distribution channels all the way from Russia down to Greece. I actually had the opportunity to participate in creating the first international insurance company in Ukraine. A lot of interesting projects there. They brought me back to run the offshore, like pensions, medical for expats and TCNs across the world, and as well as the Caribbean. And then during the 2008 crisis, MetLife actually acquired Alico from AIG, and I moved to MetLife. Within MetLife, MMB were my biggest partners across, so we used to sell insurance. I was in the carrier side, selling a lot through brokers as one of the distribution channels. And I got to know the entire team. So as I moved forward with my career, they had a position open and they were looking for the head of Latin America. And they invited me to join for that position. So I was very excited. It was a little bit different to change from the carrier side to the brokerage side. But as I always been very curious, I decided to take the challenge, and it has been a lot of fun. So today I'm here. I'm managing a team of over 2,350 colleagues across the region in 12 countries. We're placing more than $3 billion in health and benefits business across the region and growing very, very fast into different segments in the market.
That's amazing. I'm talking about diversity in the Latin American market because it's naturally, Latin America is like a whole region, but each country is super different to one another. They have different ways of buying insurance in this case. What would you say are the main challenges when working with such a diverse type of region?
I think those are challenges as well. There are opportunities, right? So as you mentioned correctly, we are a very diverse region with very, very different cultures, very, very different economies, very, very different regulatory environments, right? So anytime you're working in developing different solutions for different countries, you really need to understand that key market and the flavor that the market needs. However, there are many opportunities into bringing new technologies into the place, tailor new solutions, right? Bringing even from different markets, not only in Latin America, but from Europe, from the US, from Asia, right? So you have the opportunity of bringing that, but as well, taking the best of Latin America and bringing to other markets or from country to country. So in my role, for example, over the last 3 years, we built a lot of different communities in different topics like digital or advisory or placement. And we have the teams from different countries collaborating together, in a very joint way in which they always bring in the best ideas, the best practices to the table. And then we consider to see how can we adapt such solutions to different markets.
And if I guess correctly, the relationship is built by each country specifically. So if you have a customer in Colombia, the relationship will be managed by a Colombian team, I guess. And then the benefit of being behind a whole branch that has the ability to allocate risk all over the world, it's the value proposition too, right? Like managing directly with the business in that country, but then having the ability to allocate risk all over the world. That's probably one of the key value propositions that you bring to the table.
A little bit like that, but a little bit more, right? So if we have local clients, then purely we manage them on a local basis, like what you're mentioning, right? But sometimes we have regional and global clients in which we can also leverage their global presence or regional presence and build different type of solutions, right? So we can use also different risk management solutions like pools, captives, and things like that, so they can leverage on their global and regional scope. But in the end, the essence, you're right. Independent if you're a local client, if you're a global client, the solution will follow the local regulation. We will have the local delivery, and we're going to protect the local people with solutions from the local market. So it's depending a little bit if you have reinsurance or not, and different things. Those are things that we do with our clients. So we have a very well segmented strategy. We have a team of specialized people in multinationals, a team of specialized people in multilatinas. And then, like when we go to the local markets, we look at a distribution across what we call the risk, large segment, corporate, and even retail.
Yeah, I understand. Like the ability to be local with local companies and the ability to be local plus international with the multinational companies.
Absolutely.
So let's dive a little bit more into the actual demands of the benefits and employees segment that is basically what you're targeting. It is no news that after the COVID, everybody being remote and especially mental health being very important for all of us, as it never been before probably. Probably the equation shifted a little bit on what the companies are demanding in terms of health care and benefits for their employees. Can you share a picture of what Latin America is demanding right now? Broadly speaking, knowing that each country to country is different, regulation is different, but what things did alter in the last 5 years that were not present 5 years ago?
Yeah, well, I think you mentioned the COVID, and I think COVID brought HR and benefits to the table, right? Because people became the most important and precious resource of any organization. It should always be, right? No matter how great in your technology, we should always be using the technology to empower our people, right? So now HR and benefits became much more important. And you're absolutely right. Like, I think there was a big shift because before people were looking more into, how do I cover the insurance? What do people need? And so on. But now both the employees and the employers are much more worried about the welfare, the well-being of the people. As you mentioned, the demand for mental health became very, very important, like financial advice and many other different things that have came up to the table. And also a lot of things on how to care for the elderly or how to be able to finance healthcare after retirement. So there's many new things that are happening where employees are kind of much more interested on the benefits and in the insurance component of their package. So right now, we actually even look before, we used to say that cash was king and salary was the key. But now a lot of the employees are actually joining companies for the purpose that the company brings to the table, as well for the benefits package. And I think the other trend that we see there from the employees' needs is that we have 5 different generations in the workplace. So different people with different needs. Insurance was very, very traditional, right? So was one package of benefits for all, and now where the employers are is that they are competing for talent. And if they want to compete for talent, they actually need to redesign their benefits to be able to attract and retain that group of employees that they truly want in their organization.
That's great. And together with that, especially for local companies. Probably multinational companies do see the broker as a way to get to benefits for their employees, probably because they're international and they have this relationship already going. But for the local companies, was the broker the natural place to go when they needed to think about employee benefits? Or did you need to position yourselves differently from the past for that relationship to be tied in their mind?
And that's a great question. I think the broker is always the place to go. Why? Because again, a lot of people are used to buying houses and they say, oh, should I go and I know the owner or should I go through a broker, right? The broker naturally have a certain level of expertise, a certain level of scale, negotiation power, and a lot of different things that the broker brings to the table. But what I think, Martin, what has changed is that a lot of people used to see on local companies the broker as a transactional partner, right? Someone that, oh, I'm going to find you the policy, I'm going to sell you the policy, and I'm going to place this policy for you. And now there has been this shift for looking at the broker as kind of a strategic advisor, which is much more, okay, more than actually my healthcare insurance, which is great. It's like, what can I do to help the health of my population? What can I do, like to work with the people and their families after their retirement? How can I provide support, mental support for the different families? How can I lower my healthcare costs? How can I attract the top employees that I'm looking for? So right now, they're looking much more as strategic partners. And then the other big shift that we are seeing is into the digital world, and specifically with AI accelerating everything. How the broker also support with digital platforms so that the employees are more engaged, they're purchasing insurance and managing their benefits in a much more friendly way than in the past.
Yeah, before getting into the digital space, which I have a lot of questions there to do, especially with AI, it seems like it shifted a little bit the employee and benefits. Insurance is a consequence of trying to figure out what is the best way to do with employee benefits, healthcare, mental health, but it's not the product that is primarily focused on the transaction, as you're putting it. What retraining you need to do to your workforce, to your teams, to get this shift? Because probably in the past it was like, okay, my only focus is to get the policy. Right now, my focus, because my client is demanding, is to help them see what is the best way to manage their team. Did you need to build a reskilling there or hire new types of talents? Like, how was this managed?
I think even like with that point on transitioning into more of an advisor perspective is all about understanding the client needs, right? So again, it's a reshift about much more about asking than telling, right? And how do we train our sales force, our teams to ask the right questions, to understand the client challenges instead of becoming like what I said in the past, which was more like pushing for products, right? Right now, we're trying to understand the needs, redesigning the solutions, coming back, and then as a consequence, the insurance is placed or we have different programs. I think there's different things that we are looking for, So again, we've been re-educating. We have a lot of training that's done for our sales teams, a lot of training focused on the customer, on how to service the customers, on how to, I always say, let's under promise and over deliver, right? So I actually hate when people are like, oh, we are the best and we do this. No, let's
Yeah.
understand. Let's make sure that we capture, and then the marketplace will tell you how great you are. And the more people are actually buying for you, the more you're saying, hey, we are doing the right things. And I think we've been in this journey, right? We had like 3 record years, in terms of growth in the organization. A lot of times I hear, oh, you guys are big. But also, I think big is an advantage, right? Because we actually treat all the clients as any small, big clients the same, you know, with the aspect that it's about understanding their needs. And where we use the big side is to leverage our scale to negotiate great insurance coverage for them. But I think there's a lot of like on this aspect and the same on the digital side, which is you almost need to unlearn to learn again, right? So you need to be very curious. So you're looking for very curious people We've been hiring a lot of people from outside, from different industries, from different backgrounds, and bringing them, teaching them more about insurance. And I think insurance has a great purpose. So it's very easy to attract employees because, like imagine like the impact that we have in millions of families across Latin America, right? So we have this great responsibility. And I think we need to get the mindset. But in essence, that's what it is. It's a huge challenge, in terms of changing a little bit of the culture. But I think we're doing quite well. We're still in the middle of the journey, but like it's contagious, right? So we see the success coming and people are very energized behind it.
Congrats on that. Yeah, it's more like closer to consulting with a premium slash commission based business model. Different, I guess, the approach. It's not like this is my product. It's like, okay, I understand you. I see your problem. How can we manage it? These are different options. Like it's not purely on the product. It's more on how to solve that problem. That's how I'm seeing it.
Yeah, that's one of the points. But also, we invested on an advisory team. Okay. So today, within our team, we have between doctors, nutritionists, psychologists, specialized in labor laws. We have a team of approximately 250 people, experts across the region that can provide, our traditional broker guys with that knowledge, new input to the clients. We designed a new product last year called Well Check Pro that we check actually the organizational health status, So we tell our clients, hey, you're doing things really well comparing to your benchmarks in different countries and so on. So it's a very innovative team, but we're really connecting the brokerage now with advisory and the digital aspects of the business.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, a total switch. I love that. Let's get into digital. I wanted to introduce this. I think in Latin America, a very relevant player in the space has been, and it is Betterfly. It's been growing crazy. It's been across different countries in Latin America with this emphasis of, well, let's bring well-being to the employees in different ways. And then the business model behind it is insurance. Somehow, the traditional players have been reacting in different ways. I'd love to understand what of the digital projects that you've been doing have been most successfully implemented into their customers that they cannot now live without it, that in the past they didn't have. If you can illustrate with some examples.
Absolutely. So again, it's all about understanding client need and how we can leverage the new technology and digital world and bring this to Latin America. So there is a lot of trends out there, right? One of the trends is about flexible benefits. So before, people wanted traditional benefits, you have your insurance and so on. Right now, employees are much more interested. So we see this growing trend for needs on flexible benefits. So Mexico is leading that. Colombia, Brazil, Chile are starting to pick up on those needs.
Can you put examples of flexible benefits? Sorry, just to illustrate as an example, what would this mean?
So basically with flexible benefits, it means that you might get a pool of points or a pool of money that you can allocate into different coverage. So if you're a younger person and you feel like you have a lower need, let's say for pensions, but you want to take care of your pets, you can put more of your points towards that type of insurance. If you feel like, I have a new baby and I need to have extra life insurance to protect me in case something happens, right? Then, you can allocate more points of that. Or, hey, I need additional health insurance or, like to have telemedicine and you can allocate more points into that, right? So that's how the flexible benefits work. Typically, traditionally like a cafeteria style of program, and for that, you need a lot of technology behind to support it. And for the region, we are bringing our technology, what's called Darwin Evolve. And that enables us to do three great things. One, put both traditional as well as voluntary type of policies that employees want to decide. It enables us to partner with different companies that provide those types of services. And then, mostly important, enables us to communicate very well with employees and also them to select what's the most appropriate benefits for them. And those platforms also come already backed up with AI. So AI is learning a lot about the employees, their needs. And today in the region, in between Sabe, which is one of our platforms, plus Darwin, we already have over 250 clients, over 1.5 million people with flexible benefits in the region today. Another things that we're doing is like we have an app which is called Benefits You, okay? And that's something we actually launched a partnership with the organization, also very, very successful organization out of Chile called MOC, and they aggregate a lot of benefits. And what we are doing with the Benefits You app, which is amazing, is that we have different components. One, we connect with the policies of the carriers. So we connect through all the main policies. We also have the mock marketplace. We have a voluntary benefits marketplace. We have communication panels. So every month, all the employees across the region get specialized information on 3 different subjects. Like this month, for example, we are talking about Alzheimer's. Very, very interesting and innovative things that are coming across that we're bringing to differentiate ourselves in the region. So all this is already a reality, and that's actually driving us to pursue. We think that, like you mentioned, our friends from Butterfly, also the other traditional brokers that are in the region, I always call like now more like frenemies, because in some areas we partner, in some areas we compete. But in the end, competition is great for everybody, because if you look into the region is very unpenetrated, right? Like in terms of benefits, insurance, below 3%. So there is a huge market. And the more the insure techs, the health techs, the HR techs, the traditional brokers, the traditional carriers educate people about the importance of insurance, of having their well-being, this type of plans, that's accessible for everybody, the better off for everybody. And the better off for the population, so we can provide coverage to many, many, many more people. So I think in Latin America, we have a very untapped universe. And I think like healthy competition and health partnership in between the traditional brokers, the carriers, and the insurtechs are going to accelerate the growth for everybody.
Oh, that's amazing. As I see it, the kind of investments that you did in the different platforms that you just mentioned to digitize part of the value proposition has been mostly to the consumer, like to the employee, given that the model is a little bit B2B2C in the sense that you work with the company, but in the end, the user that is receiving the benefit is the one that in the end you want to be valuable with. I mean, if the users don't perceive value in their benefits, then eventually the company would not provide those benefits anymore, I guess. Any type of development on the distribution on the B2B side, like any kind of development that you've been doing, AI or digital platforms, to help you be more effective in how you get into the customers, in how you reach out, in how you provide your value proposition to them? Any aspect there that you could mention?
Absolutely. So let me maybe clarify a little bit, because I mentioned the app, so I mentioned Benefits You app, which is amazing, and you 100% correct, is to the end user, which is the employee and their families, right?
Yeah.
Benefits You for us come as a suite, okay?
Okay.
Benefits You Global, that's for multi-Latinas and multinational companies, like the employer can see their policies wherever they are around the world.
They manage it.
Managed, okay? Then we have Benefits You Every Day. And that's very interesting, actually. That actually is like a portal where the HR manager or their team can do a lot of the transactions directly on the portal. So more and more, you reduce the need for implants and big servicing structures that still exist across Latin America. So that's very, very innovative, okay?
Gotcha.
And then also, like on the B2B side, we've been trying and testing different things. So last year, we launched what we call MMB Select, okay? MMB Select is also new platform to help and make benefits and health insurance more accessible for the SME markets across the globe and in the region. And we've been trying actually to bring clients now, SMEs, through Facebook, through LinkedIn, through Instagram. So we try to capture clients via different marketing campaigns. So completely new model in addition to our traditional models that we're testing, right? And then we actually connecting that very closely with our place in businesses, the products and facilities that we built for our clients. So we've been very successful in the SME market already. That represents about more or less 20% of our businesses, and it's growing very, very, very quickly. So that's a great example on how we're doing things in different ways. But also the traditional sales force still there, is still, and specifically, for very, very large organizations, as I said, like we need to still have these super specialized advisors that go there to deep dive into the risk, into to the labor laws of each markets and their needs to be able to deliver the best solutions to these clients.
That's amazing. And connecting two of the things that you mentioned and also rounding up a little bit the conversation, trying to get into the AI opportunity or threat or whatever you can call it. But in this 3% of penetration in benefits that you mentioned in Latin America, there's a 97% market opportunity kind of thing. Probably in Latin America, most of this volume will be coming from SMBs. Correct me if I'm wrong, but most of the companies are SMBs. There's the multinational, multi-Latinas that are most of them probably somehow bringing some kind of benefits, but then the opportunity is, okay, how can I get into the SMBs in a scalable way, in a repeatable way, that is not the same dedication that I can provide to the large enterprises because the profitability will not be there. So I need to somehow be scalable in acquiring and onboarding and scaling. And this is when AI could come to play. Do you think the future of distribution will somehow mix robo-advisory, AI advisory in the B2B space? Or you think we'll always need someone in the end with the customer to be saying, hey, go for these kind of products?
It's going to be a transition. There's definitely like a huge space for robotics, AI, and so on. But again, when we look into Latin America, part of our culture, again, it can change from market to market, but part of the Latin culture is still the close contacts that we have with people, right? So I think the having someone to hold your hand to say, hey, this is good, it's great, But I think where I see AI for Latin America coming into play very, very quickly is actually in supporting these people, providing more timely and accurate information. So imagine we manage thousands and thousands of policy, right? If we get a question, say, hey, like I'm having a baby, how does my maternity coverage works? Like from the top of mind, an agent would need to go there, look for the information and so on. AI will probably, very accurately, so
with the regulation of that country and with the
regulation of
with the deal with the company,
key aspects together, But again, it's a great investment, right? So we've been testing and learning a lot with AI in different areas, like for RFPs, for renewals. One area that actually we've been already very successful training is building some algorithms to capture fraud. Like there's unfortunately, it's very sad to say, but Brazil, Mexico, like fraud can have up to between 10 to 15% impact on the policies.
That's crazy.
And today, because AI are able to capture different information from different sources, very quickly, you're able to capture some of these and help our clients, right? Because if you reduce fraud, then we can reduce, like the costs, the claims, and therefore reduce the premium for the clients. So in the end, it's the partnership between, the broker, the carrier, the client, to make sure that we're getting the best benefits for the best premiums for and best coverage for the employees.
Amazing. So huge opportunity for AI to help scale the penetration of this kind of insurance in Latin America. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
With this, Ricardo, I First off, really appreciate your time. I know you're super busy with a lot of things to scale. Congrats on your current success. There's a lot yet to be built, so that's exciting at the same time. As you mentioned, there's a 97% market opportunity here, and you guys are growing as crazy. So it's great to know that somehow Latin America is being thought as, okay, there's not a business opportunity, but also coverage gap. We try to get everybody better conditions of living. So that's a great mission too. And I hope everybody kind of sees this and eventually joins the mission too. So congrats and thanks a lot for the space and bringing some visibility into the whole thing that you're doing.
No, thank you again for having me, and I hope to be collaborating with you guys and everybody else here in the call today. Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Right, take care. Cheers.